In this step, I'm going to do one pretty small thing, which is just getting this to center vertically in the middle of the page. I don't really want it up here at the top. I could do that with something like, I don't know, padding at the top of the body or something, and that would smush it down. But that doesn't really work. It doesn't leave it vertically centered in the middle of the page. I want it to always be vertically centered, regardless of how tall the page is. I'm going to do that using something called Flexbox, which is one of the best things to ever happen to CSS. First off, I'm going to create a section with class hero. A hero is in web design, it's that big image you usually see at the top of a web page that's like a picture of the product that the web page is describing or a picture of the person it's describing. It's just sort of a big image at the top of the page. And so I'm going to call this my hero. I'm not trying to toot my own horn and say that I'm a hero, it's just a web design term. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to wrap this inside a header element. A header, well, that's a piece of text that or content that heads up another piece of content, something that introduces another piece of content. And this is sort of introducing the rest of my page. This HTML right now isn't doing anything. I'm going to have to change the CSS to make it do something. So that section, it has the class of hero. And the nice thing about that is that you can select things by their class instead of just by their element name by doing dot and then the name of the class. So this is dot hero. A class can have hyphens and underscores in it, but it can't have spaces in it. So if I did hero and then hero2, I would not be able to do dot hero hero2. It would consider those to be two different things. So a class cannot have any spaces inside it. Very important point. But now I can select my hero. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it an outline just so we can keep an eye on the borders of it. There we go. I like to use outline because it doesn't actually take up any space on the page. If I give this thing an outline that's 100 pixels wide, you'll notice that it's not moving anything around on the page. If I change this to a border, now you can see that it moves things around considerably. The difference between an outline and a border is that an outline is sort of overlaid on top of everything and doesn't take up any room. It doesn't move things around, whereas a border does move things around. It's sort of like you're inserting walls around things, whereas an outline, you're just putting it on top of everything. So I like to use outline for when I'm trying different layouts just to keep a track of where the edges of everything are. All right, so I've given it an outline. The next thing is going to be giving it a height of 100 VH. So you'll notice right now that this outline, which is at the edge of this element, it's about 2/3 of the way down the page. If I change it to 100 VH, now you don't see it at all. That's because the edge is the edge of this window right here. VH stands for Viewport Height. A viewport is the window that you're using to look at a web page. So right now, this is my viewport. If I was looking at this on my phone, then my phone's screen, the browser on my phone, that would be the viewport. This is saying that I want my hero to be 100% the height of the viewport, or the viewport height. If I change this to 50, now it's going to be 50% the height of the viewport. If I change it to 99, we should just see this little red line just edging off the edge of the page. I want this to be a full 100% the height of the window. There's also viewport width, which does the exact same thing except with the width of the page. So now you notice that this moves around depending on how wide the window is, but I don't want to do that right now. I just want it to always be 100% the height. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add display flex. Flex is or flex box, as it's usually called, is a CSS trick that was recently introduced within the past couple years when CSS3 version 3 really started getting underway. It gives you lots of control over how you want things to align on the page, how you want them to align horizontally, vertically, in relation to each other. This, for the longest time, was one of the most notorious difficult things in CSS, getting things to align, especially align vertically. Flexbox makes it much simpler. Right now, it makes everything look, well, that's not what I wanted at all. But what I can do is I can say flex direction column, And now this guy is right in the middle of the page. That's because by default, Flexbox has everything in a row. So if I add, let me add one more thing inside Hero. I'll just add a little paragraph that I'm going to remove in a second. When I say it aligns everything in a row, I mean it tries to get everything to move across the page horizontally. But if you change flex direction row to column, now it makes everything go down the page vertically. So that's pretty good. Uh, the other thing I want to do, and what's actually going to center it vertically, is I'm going to add justify content center. So if you justify text, that's defining how you want the text to be aligned across the page. Do you want text to always go to the edge of the page or not? Sort of the same concept with Flexbox. This is saying, where do you want the content to be justified on the page? You could have it be in the center of the page. You could have it be at the start, at the end. I want it to be in the center of the page. So this is what I'm doing right now. All right, and there we go. So now regardless of the height of my page, this is always going to be smack in the center of it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Well, I already did save it. I'm going to make a commit. And I'm going to say vertically centered hero, which taken out of context sounds really weird. I'll push that back up to GitHub. And there we go.